Hello, I'm Kara, and welcome to Kara Tarot. This is a way of learning the meanings of the cards by comparing the same card from 5 different decks and listening to what the creator of that deck has to say about the card. This time, before we start, I thought we should take a moment to just look at the cards. This is the Hermit card from the Major Arcana, and try to see the similar features and also some of the differences between them. There are some obvious stylistic differences, since one of the decks is the Alice in Wonderland deck that's in the middle. But one thing you notice of all the cards is they are all holding a lantern of different types. The first 3 are holding the lantern up high. The 4th is actually an Atea deck, so some of the meanings of the cards are quite different, and I'll get into that. But he's almost hiding the lantern. It's down by his side. And the 5th has the lantern and the staff combined with a kind of an oil lamp at the end of the staff. It can't be seen perhaps in this version, but when you see the close-up of it, you'll see. Now, speaking of the staff, several of the others also hold a staff, which can mean support. It can mean infirmity, needing a staff for walking. It could also be used for defense. Something you'll notice amongst most of them is that they appear to be up high. They're high on the mountaintop, or in the case of the Dormouse in the Alice in Wonderland, high on the tabletop with nothing else around on the tabletop. So they're up high, they're having an overview, the ability to see the big picture as they looked down and light the way. And they can look down and see the big picture of what's going on below. Perhaps with some detachment. You might also notice the Atea deck card is reminiscent of the Fool because he has a dog at his heels beside him, which the Fool card is often depicted with a dog either beside him, behind him, nipping at his feet, or pulling down his pants. The rest of them are quite solitary compared to that. And also with that Atea card, he's not up high. His boundary is blocked by the church. And I'll get more into that when we discuss that card. But that's a great way to start when you are comparing decks to try to get an overview of the meaning of the card, is to just look at them and see what are the common features that they have, no matter how different the artwork may be. Now I'll start reading. This is the Giant Rider Tarot deck. Again, these descriptions are excerpted from Arthur Edward Waite's The Key to the Tarot. The Hermit, prudence, also and especially treason, dissimulation, corruption, roguery. Reversed, concealment, disguise, policy, fear, unreasoned caution. Now, this definition may be a little more negative than you usually think of with the Hermit, and it ties in with what we will hear from the Atea deck. The next Hermit card we have is from the Dante Tarot. You'll notice that this Hermit seems to be stepping forward. He seems to be moving quite aggressively forward with his lamp, as opposed to many of the other ones that are standing still and looking down. The Dante Tarot was previously released as the Giotto Tarot. The artworks are all based on the work of the artist Giotto. Number 9, the Hermit, prudence. The positive aspect, silence, austerity, solitude, and research. The negative aspect, misanthropy, self-pity, delay, and hidden enemies. Next we have the Alice in Wonderland Tarot. One of the directives in the book, the little white book with the Alice in Wonderland Tarot, is to reread the books. And if you remember, the Dormouse is almost a little tipsy. He's definitely very sleepy. So his wanting for solitude seems almost more that he wants to go and rest. Not that he's particularly trying to light a way, although he is holding a lantern in this version. From the book that comes with the Alice in Wonderland Tarot, instructions by Chris Abbey. The Dormouse sits in a teapot, asleep as usual. His lantern sheds light on all. He dreams, possibly of the past, possibly of the future. He is neither young nor old, aged or ageless. Most of all, he is at peace with himself. Divinatory meanings. Attempting to know oneself, inner strength, discretion to withdraw from a fight, infinite patience, caution. Sometimes the card represents insincerity, hypocrisy, withholding of emotion, secrecy or fear of discovery, unused knowledge that could help someone else. The reverse meanings, indiscretion, jumping into action without forethought, bad advice, hesitation to the point of failure, babyish reaction, withdrawing from the world too much. I would add that one of the features of the Dormouse in the story is because he is falling asleep, he's not hearing or he's misunderstanding the things that are said to him. So it's worth thinking about that being a feature of his seclusion, is that it takes him a while to catch up. It takes him a while to understand what other people are saying. And that would be more reason for reflection. As I mentioned, the next deck is an Atea deck. It is a significantly different deck from the Rider-Waite-Smith based decks. It is older. It is a pip deck, and Atea had also some significant changes to the majors. He added the 4 graces, and he added more planetary cards, and he also has the days of biblical creation, all in the majors. So sometimes these cards are collaterals for what they became later in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and sometimes they're just completely different. Speaking of being completely different, the Hermit card is not only numbered differently in this deck, although interestingly, numerically, it still does equal a 9. It's number 18. So it's still, in numerology, is equal to a 9. It's not only numbered differently, but as I mentioned from the picture itself, it's quite different. The Hermit has the dog at his heels. The Hermit is holding his lantern down. And instead of having an overview, looking down on creation or on the things around him, his vision is completely obscured by the large church behind him. And this has to do with Atea's overall negative feeling towards people who have cloistered themselves off. It's one of the words on it is the false monk. He also has Capuchin, which is Capuchin monks were a particular order of monastery. Number 18, Hermit. Austerity, reflection, preparation, and experience. Upside down, betrayal, solitude, and fruitless action. So not quite as negative, right side up, as you might think from the words around the edge, which does make us wonder, since at both the top and the bottom it says traître, or words that denote treason. It could be that one of them is simply the wrong word, that it was supposed to be more positive on the right side up. We always have to remember that sometimes these older decks have editing errors, and then they have editing errors inculcated into them. So especially today, as we have a much more positive view of the Hermit card, we can definitely on the right side up align that with the positive words reflection, preparation, experience that show up in the book, the little white book that comes with it. I recently read a blog post by Benabel Wen about her work in creating a modern version of the Atea deck based on the first and second versions. And from that article, I believe the version that I have is the third Atea deck version. The final card is from a deck that I purchased from an Etsy vendor. This is the Celestial Carnival deck. It is with primarily throughout pinks, greens, and golds in the color scheme. This is also a deck that has castles within the repeated symbols within the cards. I will say that the book that came with this deck often refers to Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, even though this deck doesn't have that. So it's more of a generic book that came with it. 9. The Hermit. Element, Earth. Astrology, Virgo. Archangel, Raziel. Keywords, upright, soul-searching, introspection, being alone, inner guidance. Reversed, isolation, loneliness, withdrawal. The Hermit upright. The Hermit shows that you are taking a break from everyday life to draw your energy and attention inward and find the answers you seek deep within your soul. You realize that your most profound sense of truth and knowledge is within yourself and not in the distractions of the outside world. You leave behind the mundane to set off on a journey of self-discovery led only by your own inner wisdom and guiding light. Now is the perfect time to go on a weekend retreat or sacred pilgrimage, anything in which you can contemplate your motivations, personal values, and principles, and get closer to your authentic self. The Hermit invites you to retreat into your private world and experience a deep sense of seclusion and introspection. You know that you will need to take this journey alone or with a small, intimate group of spiritually minded people. When you allow yourself to tune in to your inner guiding light, you will hear the answers you need and grow wise beyond your years. Find your light, shine it on your soul, and create your unique path. The Hermit reversed. The Hermit reversed can go one of two ways. You are not taking enough time for personal reflection, or you are taking too much. If you struggle to connect with your spiritual self, the Hermit reversed encourages you to create more space to meditate and reflect. It is time to go deeper into your inner being and rediscover your greater purpose on this earth. You may have been so busy dealing with the day-to-day issues that you have forgotten to listen to your inner voice. The Hermit asks you to search deep within your soul to help you find your way again and focus on rebuilding yourself on a spiritual level. I will add again the secondary meaning of the reversed Hermit could be that you are taking too much time for those things, which could be isolating you and removing you from other people. A reminder of the Dormouse card, where that time of isolation could make it harder for you to get back in touch with other people, or to hear them correctly, or to hear them at all. As you could tell from that, the tarot book that came with these cards was fairly extensive for a little white book. I do like the way it's written, but there just are, in some of the descriptions, there are references to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, not to the picture that's in this deck. And there is no author listed. And finally, I'm going to add something from the book by Alejandro Jodorowsky and Marianne Costa, The Way of Tarot, the Spiritual Teacher in the Cards. Just a small excerpt about the Hermit. In a reading, this card often symbolizes a crisis that cannot be avoided, a profound change that needs to be confronted and accepted. It evokes the idea of a teacher, a therapist, or a guide. But in a crisis, there is an equal possibility that the Hermit will renew himself or die. He therefore also refers to poverty, solitude, and even decay and degeneration. He can be seen as a vagrant or even an alcoholic who is hiding a quart of red wine in his lantern. The Hermit is the most human and coldest counterpart of the great paternal archetype of the Sun. In this way, he can depict an absent father or one who is taciturn, remote, or has vanished. He also refers, for the subject of the reading, to an inner solitude, to the secret and dark space where a spiritual transformation is prepared. As you can see from these readings, there seems to be quite a dichotomy in the perception of the Hermit's isolation, even in the positive or upright position. The various authors have quite a difference in perception of whether that isolation is positive or negative in the upright position, which then, of course, alters the feeling about it when it's reversed. My feelings towards the Hermit are very positive, but I also have very positive feelings about asceticism and the monkish or nunnish way of life, of a community removed and a life led for spiritual purposes primarily. Even though that hasn't been my life, it's definitely been a part of the calling of my inner being. I hope the comparison of these cards has helped you delve further into the meaning of the Hermit, and that you'll have a lot more illumination in the way you view it in the future. This has been 5 on Deck, the Hermit, from Kara Tarot. I'm Kara. Thank you.